Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
The Projection Booth is single-handedly the greatest film podcast you could ever listen to or could possibly want.
Top notch. 5 stars. This has quickly become one of my favorite film-related podcasts. Always interesting.
A completely unpretentious yet fully comprehensive look at films from all genres.
The Projection Booth podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast. Here are Brad, Lisa, Brian, and Darren.
Welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast. With me is Lisa Gullickson, wife Dork.
Show's canceled, punk.
And also joining us is Brad Gullickson, mouth Dork.
Who's going to call the cops? The pigeons or the rats?
And special guest rap Dork, Phz-sicks.
Them country motherfuckers is crying about the police, right? They want cops? Give them cops. Hello, Officer Friendly. How are ya?
And I'm your host, Darren Smith, the Disco Dork. Gang, you think we some punk-ass gang? And welcome to the It Modcast podcast, TRESPASScast?
The episode I never thought would happen.
Yeah, how did this get made?
The convalescence of events to make this happen is a beautiful thing.
Years in the making.
So I think that Chris should give the background on how, because this was your efforts that got this on the big screen once again. The revival.
So I remember just one day in the McConnell Cave at the Alamo Drafthouse, we just were talking about movies, and we were talking about like movies that most people haven't seen. And for some reason, I was like, Trespass popped in my head because of, how can you go wrong with Ice Cube, Ice-T, William Sadler, and Bill Paxton? Time for some action. But I was just like randomly brought it up, and I was like, everybody's like, what is Trespass? So I was like, all right, let me look this up on IMDb. And I was like, how can I sell this? And I was like, oh, because I didn't know this at the time. I was like, Walter Hill directed it. And I was like, oh, Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis, the team that brought you Back to the Future, also made it. So I just remember I was like, all right, this will be a great movie to play, because I remember it being very good. I saw it so many times due to HBO, and then living in Mississippi with my uncle who, as I said on, I think the Prince cast, where Purple Rain and Trespass and House Party were 3 movies that they got from the Piggly Wiggly, a grocery store in Mississippi and down south, where he rented the movies and just never took them back. So it's one of those movies I just saw all over and over time, and I was just like, all right. So when Aaron was the creative director of the Alamo Drafthouse, I was like, Trespass. Every time they were like, something new? What's a new movie you could bring? I was like, Trespass. Then he stepped down, and then Gabe came, and I was like, Trespass. And then Shout Factory put out a Blu-ray for Trespass, and I was like, oh, it's going to happen now. And then eventually, 2.5 weeks ago, Gabe was like, guess what's happening? Trespass. And I'm just glad everybody came out and everybody really enjoyed that movie.
I love that. It's like this. It's like the say anything message. If you just get your boombox out there, you hold it up, and it's playing Trespass for years and years.
Yeah, it was like a year and a half of just talking about Trespass.
All right, so for the people who have not seen Trespass, what is the big deal about Trespass? Yes, it's a movie directed by Walter Hill and co-written by Robert Zemeckis, but and starring the ISIS, Ice-T and Ice Cube on the big screen for the first time. So this is for those who aren't aware of the significance of that, it's like that scene with Pacino and De Niro and Heat being in the same scene for the first time.
But instead of 10 minutes, it's 90 minutes.
So it's basically like BVS, like the significance of Batman and Superman, like on the screen at the same time.
Ice Cube's Batman, Ice-T Superman.
That's debatable. But so tell them what the big deal is about this movie.
It's just, I feel like it's a super underrated movie. Most people haven't seen it because of the way that it came out. It was supposed to come out in the summer of 1992, but due to the LA riots, they got scared. The movie was originally called Looters, and they were like, okay, we're going to put this out. And they were like, ooh, Looters, LA riot. So they pushed it back to December, and it just got lost in the shuffle. And I feel like in the 90s, there are a handful of those movies that, you should pass along, since we don't do the VHS thing anymore, and a lot of these movies end up just disappearing, or you just be like, hey, you remember that movie that was on TV about scarecrows? Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah, that is scarecrow. Man, high five for bringing that shit up. Pow.
But yeah, but like there's just these memories, and it's like I just always thought this was a criminally underrated movie, even before like
was that pun intended?
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I just felt like nobody talked about it. Nobody talks about it at all. And the fact that it is a Walter Hill movie, is a Bob Gale Robertson Zemeckis movie that just seems to get lost in the shuffle.
And it's a weird, pseudo remake of The Treasure of Sierra Madre.
Yeah. And I just think, I mean, the unintentional comedy, you have that. You have good action. The way people die in this movie is just, they just don't die. Like, you fall through a glass window, and then you hit a banister, and then you hit a car. Like, you just don't get killed. And I just think it's just a fun, to a degree, grim movie that most people, I feel like, need to see. And it's a whole bunch of I remember him like in the early 90s. You got Argyle from Die Hard. Since we did Die Hard cast, Argyle is in it. Yeah. You have two people from Die Hard 2 and Art Evans and William Sadler. You have Glenn Plummer, who's South Central.
South Central, yeah.
Who also has I'm forgetting his name, but he was also in South Central. He was the antagonist. I think it's Byron Mims, who also was the co-creator of Black Dynamite, because he played Bullhorn. Yep. And he was the co-creator on that show and movie. And it's just like all these Stoney Jackson, who's still
Wacky D.
Yep.
Tiny Lister.
Devo.
Yeah, and it's just and like Devo had nothing to say. He doesn't say one word in that whole movie, just grabs bodies, runs around, and then he disappears. You never see him again. After he takes one body, he's gone. But it's just like, for like, especially a black kid, and especially in the early 90s, you don't see a lot of movies. I mean, when you did, it was always like super, super hood movies. But like seeing this movie, and it was like, oh, okay. And it just seemed cool to see like, oh, I know these rappers. And then like, oh, this is Argyle, and I know Bill Paxton from Aliens and all these other movies. It was just such a cool thing to see. And I just always felt like an attachment to it for just an underrated movie that I always wanted everybody to see.
Well, I think what's interesting about the film, and they take this from the original John Huston movie, is you have these two protagonists, or what you think are the two protagonists of the film, in Bill Paxton and William Sadler, as these firefighters who discover a treasure map to lost gold in East St. Louis.
Yeah. Illinois.
You think that's right. You think they're going to be, like the good guys, but there are really no good guys in this film. And I love how pathetic Bill Paxton is willing to be in this film. And William Sadler certainly can play villainous, but he's such a scumbag as the film progresses. And Ice-T becomes more and more heroic over the course of the running time.
Yeah. I always feel like this is a movie that could end with just listening to what another person says. If Bill Paxton doesn't walk out the room when William Sadler tells him, hey, stay here, if he doesn't walk out, he doesn't get caught. This causes the chain of reactions. And then with Ice-T's character, King James, and then Ice Cube's Savion, when he tells him not to shoot, if he doesn't shoot, that truce could have happened. But they just don't listen to each other. Everybody starts going on their all thing. And as Ice-T says earlier in the movie, he was like, this is not going to end well for none of us. And ultimately, it didn't. For really two people. Well, 1.5. You leave with your life, but you lost your best friend and everything else with it. And you can't really explain what happened.
All right. Before we continue with this conversation, I just want to put this out there. So I was not, and I'm not even going to say I am now, but I was not, definitely when it first came out, not the biggest proponent of Trespass. Actually, I guess it was like Spite hated it or disliked it, because this was Q's first film after Boys in the Hood, right? So Boys in the Hood came out, and outside of just being a powerful film, that was Cube's role as Doughboy in Boys in the Hood, and his name was Darren, and his character's name was Darren. I thought that was dope.
But I had Jerry curls,
right? I did have a Jerry curl back in the day, but it's predated Boys in the Hood. Anyway,
your soul glow.
I loved Cube's performance, and being a fan of NWA prior to him being cast in that film, but just seeing like his dramatic work in that movie being more than just a gangbanger in South Central, but having some depth, especially that last scene where he gets the guys that shot Ricky, and then that conversation he has with Trey on that porch, like
either they don't know or they don't care.
Yeah, so like made me appreciate Ice Cube even more as an artist, because man, this dude he has a significance in musical culture, rap, the genre of rap, gangster rap, but then also like he's talented in a dramatic sense, like in movies. So I was just like this huge fan of like Ice Cube. So then Trespass gets announced, and this predated when I got into going online and looking at who's going to star in a movie and finding out like behind the scenes stuff before a movie came out. But hearing that he was going to be cast in the movie with Ice-T, I was like, I got excited. Yeah. And so,
but you had New Jack City before that.
New Jack City, and then the movie. I watched the movie, and like Ice Cube's not the main dude. He's not the main guy. And then like he's a bad guy, and like I thought he was going to be. I thought he was going to be like a good guy or the main guy. And so, like, as a kid, I can't remember. Maybe I was in 92. I had to be maybe 17, 18. I don't know, 16, 17. So I was a teen. This was my late teens. So at that point, like, I just was upset. Like, and I just did not like that movie because I figured, all right, he's not the main bad guy. He's not even a good guy. That means he's going to die. And I don't want him to die because that's Ice Cube. I like Ice Cube. And so, like, I remember actively just not being engaged with that movie for like at least 5 to 10 years, from initially seeing it to, revisiting it over and over. Like I just always just did not like the fact that Ice Cube wasn't like the main guy. But then as I got older and then start having more of appreciation for the character actors of Bill Paxton and, Bill Sadler, and then all of the other characters that are in the movie that you say, hey, that's that guy from this movie. Then, more of his charm came out to me. But even still to this day, like, because Ice Cube in this movie, I don't even think like he's as good as he is in Boys in the Hood.
Oh, he's not.
And because of that, I still think back like, man, like I wish, I thought Doughboy was like a star-making turn for him. Like he should have got like top billing. So I always,
but you also got to remember, there was that huge thing of he's still a rapper, so he can't really act, and he dealt with that a lot to the point where he just like, F it, I have to make my own movie, and that was Friday. That basically, and if you look at a lot of minus like the big budget XXX and all of those, a lot of his movies are filmed by him. It's all Cube Vision.
Yeah.
So like he had to make his own lane because they were not giving rappers turned actors any roles. I mean, I really feel like it would have shifted if, Tupac lived long enough to go into acting, because that's technically what he really wanted to do.
And he was good in stuff like Gang Related and Gridlocked.
Yeah, Juice.
Oh man.
God.
Above the Rim.
Yeah. So I don't know, like going back to revisit this, like I had fun with it. I think more than I have had ever with it previously. One, because I've matured as a cinephile and I have a better appreciation for the character actors in there. Two, revisiting Bill Paxton's performance, in light of his recent passing. But three, just being old enough to say, all right, I have to accept Cube's role in this film for what it is. Yeah. I mean, I really have no choice in that. So I was able to enjoy it more. But I still think, like, a large part of me is just like, fuck, man, Cube's supposed to be like the main dude.
And they shifted that ending because they did a test screening that literally showed Cube dying. And people were like, we are not having that. So they're like, all right, we're just going to keep it ambiguous because we got to make sure, hey, maybe if this does well, maybe Cube goes back and try to find that gold.
Yeah. But so Walter Hill, the director of this film, is that something that, upon initial viewing that was not lost on you?
Well, I think I'm coming from a very similar place, Darren, as you are.
Yeah.
Because when I saw Trespass, again, around 92, 93,
Right.
I didn't see it in the theater, so it must have been like 93 or 94. And then they played it on like TNT.
Yes.
On repeat.
Yeah.
Yes. That and Monster Vision.
That's right.
Godzilla or Ice Cube, who you want?
And I am a big Walter Hill fan. But
Right.
for whatever reason, Trespass never, rose to the ranks of 48 Hours, Red Heat, The Warriors, Southern Comfort, Extreme Prejudice.
Chris mentioned that he was just recently made aware of Walter Hill being the director of that. But again, I think it's because when people talk about Walter Hill's films, I very rarely hear Trespass brought up in the conversation.
But what's interesting now, and maybe Chris has started this, is there's a resurgence of Trespass love. And like IndieWire recently did the top 5 essential Walter Hill films, and Trespass is there.
Really?
And the craziness of the retweets and likes for Trespass on Twitter is ridiculous. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Just looking at my phone, just seeing anything my name was attached to, just going up, up, up.
And, watching it this time, what I gravitated towards was certainly what you said, Darren. Seeing Bill Paxton again in light of his passing.
Right.
I really loved his performance in this film, and especially like those last moments of Bill Paxton.
Yeah.
He's just such like Bill Paxton in so many movies was willing to, play weak or sad or pathetic.
Yeah.
And I deeply appreciate that about him.
Vulnerability is
Vulnerability.
strong suit.
He's not the hero.
Yeah.
And the other thing is this is a bottle movie. And as I've gotten older, I become more and more obsessed with films that can survive in 4 walls or 4 walls in a hood, because East St. Louis and this feels like the universal backlot.
Yeah.
They don't really go too far beyond, the parking lots and the rubble.
Yeah.
And I like the geography of this film and tracking where all the characters are and, when they are going to connect and terrible things are going to happen.
Yeah. So let's again, okay, Chris, I'm gonna let you tell the people who haven't seen the film. I guess we start at the beginning and let's just go over how we meet the players and the premise, the setup of the film, and what actually starts these people on this chain of events and down this spiral to convene on this one place to search for this thing.
Well, one of the first things is you have a VHS tape that starts off the movie, which kind of threw everybody off in the movie theaters because they were like, "What's this off of VHS tape?" But it was like
myself included. I thought we were watching Video Vortex for a second.
Yeah, because it pops up and then the Universal sign comes up, which is very awkward that it is not the other way around.
Well, and the ratio is not typical widescreen.
Yeah,
it's 4:3. It was 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, throughout the whole movie.
That's right.
So you see a video and you hear people talking about what's going on in the video. You see a killing of one of King James' associates, not gang members because he's a businessman. So you see a killing and then it just starts off the movie. You end up in Backdraft. There's a fire going on and one of Bill and Ted's dads has a gun. Has a gun and he's just muttering, about, he's like, we did something terrible. And I'm pretty sure he thinks that what's happening to him now being stuck in this, house of fire is all because of what he did. He gives Bill Paxton and William Sadler character the map. And then just walks off into the fire. Even though he has a gun, he easily could have just shot himself and ended it. But he decided to go out in a blaze of glory. We get back to the fire department, and they figure out that it's a treasure map because with what he gave them was also a newsletter about them stealing about $1 million worth of gold from the Vatican that was loaned to this church. So they find out that he used to work in this factory in East St. Louis, Illinois, and they decide to go there and go get the gold. So this starts everything off. While this is happening, you have King James and his associates are going to go and set up the person that killed the first person you saw in the video that was filmed by a character named Video.
30% of this movie is a found footage film.
Yeah, which is crazy for 1992. Yeah. Shaky cam and everything. So you have them finally going over to East St. Louis. They start looking around, tearing up the floors, the floorboards and everything. And then they meet Art Evans' character, who's a homeless person that lives on that fifth floor in that room. And he doesn't understand why they're tearing up his home. And one of the crazy things about it is those scenes between really William Sadler and Art Evans' character are very tense, and they just have a lot of just racial tension in it as well. Because it was like, and one of the things Art Evans says, it was like, you white people, you never come here unless it's for something you want to get. And of course, Bill Paxton was like, we have as much rights to this as you, which is not the case. He was like, you don't live here. I do. But they tie him up, and he has no reason why that's happening. While this is happening, what is Argyle's character name? Like, they keep yelling at
Lucky.
Lucky, thank you. His name is Lucky because Eris, he has a bad leg. He grew up without a parent. King James basically, raised him. But every time there's been a drive-by, he has never been shot. So he considered himself lucky. That name comes up as comedy relief later on in the movie. But Lucky takes the person that killed the first person you see in the movie upstairs, and they run into Stoney Jackson. They're going on to do this deal, but Lucky decides to tell him, like, yo, King James stash is right over there, man. If you go in there and get it, man, we could just take all this over. And he's like, man, I ain't gonna believe you. I'm gonna do this and then get killed. But he still decides to go over there and put his hands in there. And right in there is a mousetrap that catches his hands and leads to him punching Lucky. And after this punch, I say Ice Cube, Tiny Lister, as well as Ice-T have one of the dopest entries as they just ascend from atop of this random like scaffold that's up there, and they just drop down. Like his coat's flowing in the wind with his perm, and they're just giving mean grills. And it's funny thing is like they have him on video killing the dude, but he still denies that he ever killed the person in the video. It's like, nah, man, that wasn't me. That wasn't me at all. This leads to William Sadler going, all right, let me see what's happening upstairs, because he hears all the commotion. He goes upstairs, but he tells Bill Paxton to stay in the room. Do not come out unless I come back. All right, so he goes upstairs. He sees all this is going on. Ice-T gets pissed off, ends up punching the dude twice, leads him to falling off the top of this roof through glass, hits a banister, raid style, cracks his back, then hits a car, and this leads to Bill Paxton coming out to see what's happening, looking up, and then getting called by Ice Cube and Ice-T.
So you have the two firefighters who go to this building because they have a map that says there's gold there. And while they're there, they at basically the wrong place at the wrong time, witnessing this hit. So let me ask you this, because Lisa, this was your first watch.
Absolutely.
Correct? So when because you're not I
had literally no cultural context for this film at all.
Well, and also you're not like a big action person,
No.
but we have a lot of great character actors in the film,
Right.
and we have a lot of colorful characters. And so what was your response to, firstly, the setup, with the MacGuffin or the gold being there, and the two possibly not up and up characters of Don and Vince? So what was your response to them and their little plan and scheme to get to this? Before we even meet King James's character, what was your response to those characters and their setup?
I liked the setup with this kind of adventure story of now you have a treasure map, we have a destination, and it was, nefarious from the start.
Yeah.
And the fact that the entire time Sadler, Don, was kind of goading Vince, Bill Paxton, out of his comfort zone. And there was definitely this power play between them of Don being the more masculine firefighter trying to get Vince to do what he wanted to do. And so it was, from the start, they set up this snowballing of pressure and poor decision making.
And morality.
You know, it like there was a slippery slope that was set up right away.
Yeah.
It was interesting, the fact that their road trip was actually a lot longer than they had set up in the film. They had gone on this like long road trip.
Well, they're going from Arkansas to Illinois.
It was like 200 miles or so.
Yeah, so they had like this road trip together, and this is like the only thing that they're there to do. And it's set up initially as this victimless crime. The church has probably already received the insurance. This is at an abandoned place. So it was the perfect setup for this kind of greed narrative, how greed consumes.
Yeah.
And the fact that that fire is used as this kind of loose symbolism, the fact that the initial guy who initially stole the gold, the fact that his apartment was consumed with flame, that eventually they'll be consumed in flame was set up.
Yeah.
Initially, I thought very strongly. Yeah. And then from the other side, from King James and his associates, the greed, it's more like power hungry. There's also a power indiscretion between King James and Savan, because Savan wants to be the new King James. He thinks he's more capable.
Yeah, he was like, I was in Boys in the Hood. I should be King James. Come on,
he
man.
was just like, I was just talking to Darren.
Yeah.
And Darren, he's 17, but he's bright.
Yeah.
And I should probably be the star of this film.
Yes.
But I started in New Jack City, though.
And I think that he also sees King James' attachment to Lucky as a weakness.
Yes.
Because King James is willing to put everything on the line for Lucky for reasons that I think unfold later in the film in a very subtle moment.
Yeah.
But that their relationship is even more entwined than just a regular sibling relationship. Yeah. There's something else going on there.
Yeah, one of the things, a few things with the fire symbolism, yes, because when you have two volatile things, especially, I would say there's two, gas lights between the both of them, they're going to be out of control. And that's eventually what happens. It was a contained fire, then eventually got out of control between, both sides. And, they're behind doors. So there's already a wall between the both of them. Mm-hmm. With Savion and Ice-T, King James' character, I think one of the craziest things is, with Savion, he's like, you're going to put all of us at risk for this one person. And he's like, what's your loyalty to us? But then again, you look at King James, on his point of view, is like, well, I won't leave anybody behind.
Right.
So my loyalty is to everybody. So we can't leave him in there and just let them do whatever they're going to do to him. We got to get him. And which is why I feel like he wasn't lying when he was like, this is a truce. I'm tired of this, because I think King James' character saw that, like he said earlier in the movie, like in the middle of the movie, this wasn't going to end well. And he wanted to just be like, all right, Effie, give us the person, because he kept asking them why they were there, and they never gave him a straight answer. And that's kind of Ice-T's role throughout the movie, just keep asking, why are you here? What are you doing here? He's asked them like 20 times in the movie, and they never answer him till right near the end. But like, yeah, it's like loyalty to a fault between both ends. King James is loyal to everybody in there, would never leave anybody behind. Savion is loyal to the people that are there. If you get caught, you just got, and you can't do anything about it. But the thing with Don and Vince, Don is Bill Paxton's character, right? Mm-hmm. All right.
No. Vince is Bill Paxton.
Okay. So with Don, he guilt trips Vince into going there because he's like, my wife's got the mortgage. I have another house. It's defaulting. There's nothing I can do. And then you have this new girlfriend. If we go here, basically giving her the baby driver, you can have all of the bacchanal you want if we go and pull this job off. But this lead towards, which I kind of skipped over, but they tie up Art Evans' character, tie him up to a chair, and then you have, King James and his associates come downstairs which is crazy because this is another way where the movie could end very quick if they would have went down there and then killed Don, and then the movie would have been it because they had him. They were right in front of him. They were asking him, "What are you doing here?" But this allowed Vincent to get the drop on Lucky. He shoots off, everybody scatters, and he puts the gun to Vince's head, and they bring him in to the room, which leads to a whole bunch of gunfire shooting into the room, where King James basically tells everybody to stop shooting because Lucky's behind there. So right there, it's a whole huge thing of, Lucky's behind here. We need to get him back. You have Savion's character now like, well, we can't let them go. And they're not going to they're not going to give Lucky back to us. So we might as well just end everything and get rid of him. So they start going through all these plans of how to get Lucky back.
That's one thing that I find really interesting is the complete misunderstanding of stakes on both sides. Because Don goes in with the idea of that gold is now mine, and if we cut and run, then everything is lost. While Vince has the idea of he's ready to just leave the gold at any time. He's going, our life is at stake. We have nothing to lose. We have everything to gain, but we have nothing to lose. We should just leave. While on the other side, at first they have no idea. Like, they have no idea what the stakes are on the other side of that door and what these guys are doing there at all. And then the stakes are Lucky's life. And King James is willing to give up anything. He's like, if we get Lucky back, it's everything to gain, nothing to lose. Well, Savion, I've been saying it Savon, and that's how I wrote it in my notes. Savion is saying, well, what we have to lose is our pride, and these people are invading our space, and they're disrespecting us. And
they saw us kill somebody.
And they
so
saw
we
us
can't
kill
have
somebody.
Witnesses.
Right. So it's that play of stakes is, I don't think that I've seen anything like this. Complete misunderstanding on all sides is very engaging.
And changing over the course of the film, too.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, Brad, upon this rewatch, I guess up to this point in the plot, was there anything that, like, how did this rewatch play to you for you this time? Was there anything that stuck out this time that you noticed? Or
I was focusing a lot on Video. Yeah, the character of Video. Who is a camera who doesn't really say much in the movie. He's not, C.J. Miller in Cloverfield, right? T.J. Miller.
T.J.
Not C.J. That's a different Miller. And how much of that film, how prevalent that gimmick is in Trespass, and how obviously excited Walter Hill was to play with that.
Just as excited as the character, like he was like, "Oh God, I get to get this shot!" Like, and he's like flipping, getting like new film and putting it in. And
Hill's Video, right? I mean, that's what it felt like to me.
Yeah.
And I think when I can't remember exactly when this occurs, but when that tape gets destroyed, I felt like I missed it. Yeah. I was like, I think the whole movie should be from Video.
Yeah,
and as of somebody who is usually detests that style of filmmaking today, it was interesting to see it in 1992.
I mean, and I guess because it wasn't something that was prevalent then, but also in the way it was used within the context of the film.
The way it was used within the context of the film, and just seeing, like, in particular, King James, watching Ice-T perform to that video was really entertaining.
Yeah. It turns into like a pseudo documentary of King James and Savon talking about each other to the camera, where he's walking around with a shotgun on his shoulder and basically talking down on Savon and whatnot.
I feel like during those scenes, there is a level of performance from the characters too. You know, they know they're being shot, and who knows what they do with this video. You know, they go home and they high five each other about how badass they are.
Yeah.
And the whole entire time I'm thinking like, cops are going to get that video.
Yeah.
But I liked that movie within the movie.
Yeah, I think that idea of them doing that video just speaks to it's a larger part of what Walter Hill does with the characters as far as like potential flaws is the bravado of the masculinity and them being blind to like how it could be your potential downfall. Like, okay, you're filming yourself saying and all this shit and doing this, but what if someone sees that, but not being aware or not caring about that?
Well, and the other element that really excited me on this watch was Art Evans' Bradley.
Yeah.
And now this was the first time I had seen this film in light of having watched John Huston's Treasure of Sierra Madre and seeing how Art Evans fulfills the Walter Huston role. And he's initially tied up to that chair, but eventually they get this, they bring these metal detectors with them, and they've been looking in the floors this entire time, and then Tiny Lister's wearing cleats.
Yeah, and his name is Cleats.
Yeah.
Cletus.
Yeah. and so they can make the getaway from their confined room, they're pointing the metal detector to the ceiling and looking for Cletus. And when they're doing that, they discover that they haven't been reading the treasure map from the right point of view. It's actually a map of the ceiling, and that's where the gold is. And to get to that gold, they need Art Evans' chair that they've tied him to. They have to stack it on top of the desk.
Watching him stand on a table on a rocking chair was probably the most terrifying part of the film for me. I'm just like, somebody's got to steady that chair. It's an irresponsible chair.
And from that point...
why is there a chair in a factory?
Well, Art Evans probably went and got it. It's his house. He's furnishing his place.
I guess. That was close-minded of me.
And Evans, from that point, when he discovers, what are these two idiots doing? Oh, there's gold in the ceiling? Well, I'm going to get in on this. And
but that's because in the beginning of the movie, when they run into him, they were like, you have Don going basically, oh, if we said if we found somebody else, we'll cut him in too. And, of course, Vince is like, no, we're not cutting him in. Like, this is ours. Like, he has no right to this. But then eventually they have to cut him in because they need his help.
And so their team...
and I like that Bradley character basically becomes the hype man for gold. He's like, gold. You can burn it, piss on it, no matter what happens. It's still going to be there. And they were like, where you learned that from? Probably was on Pawn Shop. He's like, you motherfuckers don't know anything. I'm trying to teach you something about gold here.
That is a great moment. That is a great moment. My favorite moment of the entire movie, actually.
Gold's hype man.
Outside of the last conversation between Bradley and Vince. So Art Evans, I mean, I'm sure I've seen him in other movies besides this and Die Hard 2, Die Harder. But he is great in Trespass.
Yeah. So Lisa, with you finding something to keep you interested in these characters, when the action does happen, because you're not an action person, did you find it easier for you to not tune out because maybe you were you cared about what was going to happen or interested as far as like who was going to make it or not? Or
I was very interested in character dynamics and keeping everybody straight, like what everybody's function was within the context of the team and the unit, and also to watch people flip and switch sides, because within the context of King James group, there is a lot of interplay of relationships. We have the character of Raymond, who starts as he comes just to bring arms and things like that, but then King James gives him money so that he'll stay, but like how long is that loyalty going to remain? And then when it actually comes out where Savion and Raymond find out that there is gold and there is something else at stake and there is a reason why those people are there, then that creates a whole nother layer.
A third team shows up.
A third team shows up. So this is happening throughout the unfolding of the action towards the end of the film. Most of the action happens in like quickly because for most of the movie, the two sides, the firefighters and the associates, are on other sides of a wall. You know, they're both on either side of Lucky. So, you know, there are exciting things that happen. Like, for example, when they're just trying to figure out how to get out of the room, and there's the catwalk and like the different attempts to get across the catwalk, and then the catwalk eventually being shot down. Like those little action moments would happen, but I would say that for most of this movie, it's a suspense kind of thing. It's not really like a let's watch a bunch of people fight.
It's not John Wick.
Yeah, it's not John Wick where I'm just like, and poke me when the shooting stops and tell me who wins. That's all I care about.
Yeah.
So I think that there was a lot of interrelationships that I found very engaging.
Yeah. So Chris, on this watch, was there anything? Is this one of those films where you still pull something different, or you're like what Brad does when he rewatches a film? He'll just shift focus to a particular character and just focus on that on a current watch and see how that plays with the film with him. Was that something that you do with Trespass, or were there things that you gravitated towards or noticed that you may not necessarily have paid attention to?
Yeah,
before?
mine was the listening and communication aspect, and how it always split duos apart from each other.
Right.
So you had Vince and Don, where as time went on, you know, Vince gets I'll keep messing up. So William Sadler is Vince, right?
Don.
All right, so Don gets gold crazy.
I just call them by their actors' names.
Yeah. So
don't be like Lisa. Don't memorize the entire cast list.
But Don gets go crazy to the point where he's willing to kill Vincent. Like he puts this huge ass, I guess, what's that, a 9mm? That gun is huge. Like when he pulls it out, I was like, why is that gun so long? But like he pulls it on him, and you know, basically like we're going to do this, and we're gonna get this gold no matter what, and you have no say in this. Then you have King James and Savon throughout the whole movie, and then you have Savon and Raymond, which their whole thing easily could have worked if Savon didn't get cocky and was like, I'm gonna get 90%, you get 10%. And then Raymond was like, you're gonna jack me after I told you there was gold in there? I'm gonna have to kill you.
Yeah.
So
and then you have the lack of communication, like you said earlier, between the firefighters and the King James and his men. So it plays on a larger scale, but in each group dynamic as well, like you mentioned.
Yeah, because and like the crazy thing is, Don isn't wrong with some of his assessments. It's like, they're not gonna let us go. We saw them kill somebody, so that's not gonna happen. Oh, we can get. How about Vince? Like, what if we give them the gold? They're like, they can still kill us. Like, so like, there's no way of getting through this without something bad happening to either one of us.
Yeah.
Savon also could have waited until he got the gold to set the C4.
Yeah.
I don't know why he was like, let's set the C4 now. I've got 2 minutes. Let's get the gold. That was poor planning on his part. So that's poor self-communication.
But that's because he's trigger happy throughout the movie. And that's what King James kept telling him. He's like, your trigger happy ass is going to get all of us killed. Technically, it did. Because when they were about to do that truce between Don Vincent and King James, he decides to shoot down the only other way for them to get out. He decides to shoot it down. When all this gunfire happens, Don Vincent believed that he went back on his word, which that's not what King James did. So now King James is pissed, like, all right, I've did everything and our plans keep messing up because of him. And the only reason King James actually starts to side with Savon is because so in the middle of the movie, like Raymond comes, you bring in Glenn King James decides to call in some backup. So Glenn Plummer and Brian Mims' character comes in, and you have Glenn Plummer looking in the back, and he sees sniper rifle, and he goes, "Oh, I was in the army. I was the best shot." I think he was lying because everybody was like, "You were the best shot." He's like, "Yeah, man, yeah, I was," which is not, because he could have killed Bill Paxton's character and totally missed. But he does kill one person, and that person he kills is Lucky. And one of the crazy thing is when he calls Stoney Jackson character, I think his name is Wiki.
I love this moment.
When he calls him, he tells him, "Tell King James I'm sorry. I killed Lucky. He moved. The white dude moved him in a way, and I couldn't do it. Tell him I'm gone. Tell him I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do this. I'm gone." So he leaves, but when Wiki gets off the phone, he decides to tell King James that the white dudes killed him.
Right.
And this makes King James go, all right, let's burn this whole place down, which Savan wanted to do the whole time.
And that truth, the truth of that scenario, never comes up again.
Nope.
It doesn't have an opportunity to, because once the fire started, it's game over.
So my question for you, Chris, is you've spent a year and a half pleading for Trespass to come to the Alamo.
Yes.
And it happens, and now you have to promote that screening. And you were on it. I mean, like every day, for 2 weeks, maybe even longer than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You were talking about Trespass on, the Secret Society of Filmmasons Facebook page. You were tweeting it out on Twitter.
Instagram promotion video. You cut a pre-show. Yeah.
Which was epic once I eventually got to see it because of technical difficulties.
Boo.
Damn you, Kurtzky.
He wasn't there. If Kurtzky was here.
He can never leave the Alamo. That's
right.
why I'm damning
His
him.
room is not upstairs?
It should be.
What the
And now you're sitting in the theater watching this film. You did the introduction to the...
Your introduction was awesome, by the way.
Thank you.
Such charisma.
And like, what is that viewing experience like?
It's like listening for cues, because I've seen this movie enough, even as a kid, even though it's been a few years since I've seen it. It's one of those things of, I know when people need to laugh. Like the quote I did, which is when they decide to play a trick on Donna Vincent and they decide to do it, pretend to be cops. Because they want cops there. So they were like, let's not pretend. Raymond has stuff in here, so let's go with it. And like that one scene where Video is filming them and you have Ice-T saying it, and then of course, it's the early 90s, so a black dude has to do the white guy voice. And then when he put the hand on Wiggy, he goes, "How are you?" And then everybody busts out laughing. I was like, yes, everybody's in. Because there are those comedic spots and those unintentional moments that are really funny. Like when after Lucky gets shot, you have Savon who's like, I guess he wasn't that lucky. And like you think after some Ice-T's characters like, this is his brother. And the first thing, a person that sounds like, I guess he wasn't that lucky. But you also got to think Ice Cube's character was pissed off throughout the whole movie because all of this is happening because they were trying to get lucky. But really, it was just watching people's reaction towards things. Like I heard some gasp during some of the violence in the movie, especially like the first scene of the dude going through the window, and then everybody going, "Oh!" And I was like, "All right, we're in," because those little reactions when they should hit is one of those scary moments. If you're in a movie theater and like a funny thing happens and nobody laughs, and then you're like, "Ooh, this is not going well." But I knew everybody liked it once I got in. The degrees, I wasn't sure until we got out into, the lobby, and everybody was like, that was a really good movie. And I was like, all right, got him. So I was like,
so basically, what Brad feels like post Star Trek 5.
Yeah.
His Star Trek 5 experience.
I mean, I loved watching Star Trek 5, but I found it to be an incredibly stressful experience as well.
For that same...
exactly what Chris said. I mean, you are waiting. You're like, okay, well, in my case, to brag even more, Star Trek V is a crappier film than Trespass. There's a level of quality below Trespass. But I don't want to turn this into Star Trek V cast because now it's just about to start defending Star Trek V. Listen to that episode, listeners.
Yeah.
You don't need to hear me talk about it now. But you are waiting for... Okay, well, how are people going to handle, Scotty hitting his head? How are people going to handle Uhura's fan dance? How are they going to handle, marshmallows?
Yeah.
But was there, those are specifically, in Star Trek V, you can love it with all your heart, but those are admittedly, cringy moments.
For some, Lisa, for some. I was ready for those scenes to win people over, Cat Lady.
But did you have, for me, when I did my screening of Head, there were definitely parts where I'm just as much as I love Head, But the never make fun of no cripple scene, I was not looking forward to. I knew that was going to be a cringy moment. Was there anything in Trespass where you're going like, were you kind of bracing yourself for a cringe?
No, not at all. I think when I was doing the intro, I was like, let me make sure I was like, there's racial tension in this movie. I'll let you know. And the one thing I put out was, I was like, this is not a hokey movie. This isn't supposed to be funny. There's funny moments that are unintentional, but this is not that type of movie.
We're not coming here to laugh.
Yeah, because I was like, when you have Ice-T and Ice Cube, the first thing in your head might be like, oh, this is gonna be like fun and interesting. I was like, it's not really a fun movie. It's not a comedy. There's
like I mentioned earlier, there's no good people really in the movie.
And it's one of those movies where like I always say all the time, like I've always had issues with like black comedies, because it's like usually in black comedies there are no likable people, and if there's nothing I can attach to. When I was younger, I would look at black comedies and be like, F this movie. This movie's horrible. F this character, F this character, F this character. It wasn't until later on and I can actually embrace it to see what's actually happening with these characters. So I was like, yeah, this is a movie of, everybody's in a gray area. It's the reason why Walter Hill picked it. He usually only picks movies that he's written. He never really goes outside, but he liked the fact that with Bob Gale and Zemeckis, they wrote this before Back to the Future. They wrote it in the 70s, and he liked the fact that it was gritty and that it was real and that nobody was the quote unquote good guy. Like there's something wrong with everybody. Because even Bill Paxton character gets like racially mad at our Evans Bradley character when he's in a chair, and he brings up the whole fact like you only came here because there's gold here. You don't care about nobody here. You shouldn't even be here to begin with. And then you have Bill Paxton, like, we have as much right to this as anybody else, which, like, in today's context is like, ooh, that's very, like, colony, like, you're doing America over here. Like, it's like, this is ours now because you
manifest destiny.
Yeah.
Just because I say so.
Yeah, and then he's to the point of wanting to hit Bradley in the face, and it's like, you're so in the wrong because Bradley, out of everybody in the character, Bradley's really the only person that's right, even though he does shift towards that gold end towards William Sadler's character, which is like, why are you with him? But he's like, I'm trying to get this gold, and I'm not trying to be homeless anymore. So I know what's in there for me.
Where is he taking that gold at the end? What's
knows.
Trespass 2?
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing. But it's just like those dynamics of just nobody's good. And like you said, really, if you take Bradley out, King James is really like the only character you could be like, I understand what he's doing. Where you look at Bill Paxton, you're like, he's too naive to like be this stupid
where everything, chump.
Yeah, where everything going on, and then William Sadler character just is crazy, really at the end of it. So it's like really, and Savant is crazy as well. So it's like really, King James is the only character that has the charisma that you're like, yeah, like if I was gonna kick it with anybody in this group, it might just be King James.
So here's my King James theory. I think that King James is actually, and is this true? Maybe it's not, but maybe I'm just inferring it. I'm buffering this because I might be wrong. But even if I am wrong, I'm still super smart. My self-value is not on this statement. But I think that King James is Lucky's dad. And here's why. He's been there since they have a 15-year age difference. And he's been there since Lucky was a baby. They said that Lucky was a baby, and they don't have the same dad. So I think that one of the reasons he's so attached to Lucky is the fact that he's Lucky's dad.
Well, you also
Maury?
Well, you have two things that counteract that. There's a behind the scenes.
No!
Ice Cube and Ice-T basically say they're not related.
Oh, but that doesn't count as it's behind the scenes. So I can't be held accountable for shit that's behind the scenes.
And then you have in the movie where it's two. I think it's Glenn Plummer and Brian Mims' character when they're in that room, and they're like, I heard they're not even related. Like when they're talking about Lucky and King James.
But I would understand that being the case if they have two different dads.
Yeah.
But then who is Lucky's dad? It's fucking King James. I don't care.
I like your idea.
I like my idea too.
Yeah.
That
would make Lucky Prince James.
But if it was son, I wouldn't think he would allow his son to get strung out on heroin
Lots of people let their sons get strung out on heroin.
But not keep them around. You don't keep them around.
Tricky.
Yeah.
I'm sticking by my theory. I don't care what Ice-T or Ice Cube says. Oops. Anybody named Ice.
And I've seen a movie with Ice-T and another person playing a crackhead. He gets them off. He gets them off.
Yeah.
He got Pookie, a.k.a. Chris Rock, off those drugs.
Yeah.
Till he got back on him. But he couldn't do anything about it. It was too late. Poor Pookie.
Oh, man.
Pookie.
I love how Film Club is evolving, though, to have different people present the films.
Present their passion.
Exactly, because from your intro, I got a little bit more of that context. Because when this film came out, this is 1992, which I'm older than you, but for me, this is second grade.
Yeah.
So I missed it in the theater. And then also, I wasn't rap was not part of my culture. It was literally banned from our home. Yeah. So you've heard that story. Like my brother wanted an MC Hammer cassette tape, and we got a Christian rap. Yeah. So it was like literally not a part of our cultural context. But having you stand up before this film and saying, this is why you should be engaged with this film. And I personally am vouching for it. And even if you don't know the awesome of Phz-sicks and you don't know who Chris is, just having somebody stand up there and say, this is something worth watching. I'm willing to stand here and testify for this film and then sit here and watch it with you. I think makes people open to films that they wouldn't necessarily be open to otherwise, or in terms of Trespass and it not being a comedy and, people like not being open to it in the right way.
Yeah.
So I like the fact that the Film Club is evolving to have people present different types of films and getting a variety of perspectives.
And the last 6 months of Secret Society Filmmasons has been an incredibly eclectic collection of cinema.
Yeah.
And I think we say it all the time, but it all goes back to the Alamo Drafthouse. I mean, you think about it, everyone in this room, at this table at least, has hosted a film of their choosing. Some of us have hosted our favorite film of all time.
That's me.
At the Alamo Drafthouse. Like, that's just the coolest shit ever to have that opportunity and then do it in a way where it's with friends. You're amongst friends. You're amongst people who will have a discussion with you after the film. And I don't know. We've just been having like a great year so far in that regard. I think.
So Chris, do you have another? Well, like what's going to be your follow up to Trespass?
Yeah, where do you go after Trespass?
My two movies I would love to do, if I can, is two social horror movies. One is Tales from the Hood. I would love to do Tales from the Hood because I feel like when you look, I was like, you look at that movie now in the context of now, you're like, this movie's kind of ahead of its time with somebody like you have police brutality, you have domestic abuse, you have a racist senator that's in this black community that basically doesn't care about the people that live there. You also have a section that deals with black on black violence, and I think he has one of the best wraparounds when it comes to anthologies. Because I really feel like horror anthologies, usually their wraparounds are like, they're take it or leave it. They're not really that great. But I really feel like the one with Clarence Williams III is amazing because once you see where it goes, you're like, let me watch this again and see if there's any hints throughout the movie. And then the second one is The People Under the Stairs.
Oh, yes.
And that's another where you could talk about gentrification with that movie. And, their apartments are about to get torn down. You got, Vin Graham's, his first movie. You have Fool. That's Brendan T. Jackson, who's in Moonwalker. And Mighty Ducks. But, I feel like those two movies are, they're both Shout Factory. They both came out Shout Factory the last 2 years. But I really feel like with a movie like Get Out, I really feel like those are the movies that set up a movie like Get Out. Because one of the things, when I sat in Get Out for the first time, the first music you hear is a sting of strings. And those strings comes from the KKK Comeuppance score from Tales from the Hood. So that when that was the first music cue I heard in Get Out, I was like, oh, I'm in this movie. Like, this movie is a movie I wish I made. Because I was like, yeah, I would throw in those small little things.
I wish the Alamo would do more triple features. I would love to see those 3 movies back to back to back. I'd probably also be depressed as hell afterwards. But I think those are 3 really interesting.
Well, now with the people on the stairs, because there is that movie.
What's a blast?
It's a blast. You have this comedy, like there's little noises that pops up when people get hit in the head with stuff. So there's like this little hint of comedy to relief all of the disgusting incest stuff that is going throughout the movie. But the end is like a hooray. Even with the end of Get Out, it's hooray unless you watch the alternate ending. Then you're like, like when I saw the alternate ending to Get Out, I was like, yeah, this is how I thought the movie was going to end.
Ditto. So you end on people under the stairs. That's how you end that trilogy.
Yeah. All right. Again, thank you, Alamo Drafthouse. Thanks, Gabe. Thank you, Chris. Is there anything you want to plug? Got any shows, any music?
Nothing at the moment. I'm still plugging Hertz. I'm still writing and finishing the album Good Day, Greater Tomorrow. I think I know all the songs I'm going to do. Hopefully I'll have it done by September, the official video for Hertz. Hopefully that's done by September. And once that video comes out, you're just going to get, hit with music after music after music until the album comes out. And I'm going to guess, since everything's been kind of delayed, I think I'm going to drop the album out either late 2017 or early 2018. But there's going to be a lot of videos and a lot of songs coming out in the next few weeks.
Important question. Do I have to subscribe to Tidal to hear this motherfucker?
No. But if you did, I get more money because Tidal's really the only streaming service that pays artists.
All right. So I'll get...
They actually pay them actual pennies where everybody else pays them...
like good wishes.
It's like 0.00003 cents, and I was like,
damn,
I sell a million. I still won't do well. So yeah.
All right, well, I'll subscribe to Tidal for you and Jay-Z because I still haven't heard the album yet.
I got onto feed bands. Because of Phz-sicks.
Oh yeah,
and I've been getting like albums. I haven't stopped. We're just getting vinyl like every month.
We have listened to none of it, but it all looks really cool.
Also, to let people know, if you do have feed bands, I have released one song that's going to end up on the album called FIU, and it's only on feed bands. So everybody else, if you're not on feed bands, you're not going to hear this song until I actually release it. So it's only there, and I think I'm going to release 2 other songs way before I start promoting those songs on there as well. Because I'm on the end of most likely having a vinyl for Good Day, Greater Tomorrow. So when that album drops, you'll be able to get the vinyl for it as well.
All right. So awesome. Tell the people they can find you on social media.
You can find me on Instagram, Twitter at PHZ_SICKS. If you're trying to look for my music, it's on all streaming services at PHZ-SICKS.
Wife Dork, where you at?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at Sidewalk Siren.
Yep. B.
You can find me on all social medias at MouthDork. And this week on Wednesday, check out Film School Rejects. I'm publishing the definitive ranking of the Planet of the Apes franchise, including the remake.
All right. You can find Turtle Dork over there on the love seat and on social medias at the Turtle Dork on Twitter, at the Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram, and at Brian William Young on Facebook. I'm Darren Smith, the Disco Dork, on all social medias at the Disco Dork. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. If you haven't seen the movie, go watch Trespass.
It's a good time.
Yep. And come out and support the Alamo Drafthouse. If you're in the area, if you're local, come out and support the Secret Society of Film Masons. This is the kind of cool shit we do. You never know. You may be up on stage hosting a screening of a film of your choosing.
So they're following up Trespass with
the Nicolas Cage one?
No. No.
The Exterminating Angel.
The Exterminating Angel, Buñuel.
All right.
Like night and day. Mm-hmm. Both great movies.
Mm-hmm. And then tickets are on sale for that.
And then Score is right after that, which is a music film documentary about film and about music and film.
Does that come out the Wednesday we leave for Comic-Con?
It does.
God damn it.
And that Tuesday I get to go see Streets of Fire for the first time. For the first time.
Oh my God. Brian hasn't seen it yet.
Lisa hasn't seen it.
I have not seen it yet either.
Oh my goodness.
But we'll be on an airplane.
It's homework cast, by the way. Her homework cast is next month, so she's got a cycle of movies.
All right. All right, that's okay. That's your pick, Streets of Fire.
Yay! But you're
'cause
not
you
supposed
told
to tell me yet.
Yeah,
Okay,
but you told me, you was like, you have to see this movie, and you was like, you just rent it, and I was like, they're gonna play it at the Alamo one of these days, and as soon as I said it was there, and I was like, all right, I bought my ticket.
Yeah, all right.
So I can see Stoney Jackson.
I'll
again.
still be here on that Tuesday, so I'm gonna come out and I'll sit.
No.
Me and Chris gonna watch Streets of Fire. Brian,
He's asleep.
wake up, motherfucker!
He's watching Britney Spears and Eminem. For some reason.
You're coming to watch Streets of Fire with us at the Alamo on Tuesday. All right. All right. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week. And, be on the lookout for our Comic-Con preview cast. That's why Brad and Lisa will not be able to attend Streets of Fire because they will be on a plane to scope out San Diego and get it ready for the rest of the dorks. We are on our way to our holy pilgrimage.
That's a lot of red carpet to roll.
Yep. And also our Spider-Man Homecoming cast. Be on the lookout for that. And a whole bunch of stuff we got related to Comic-Con. So be on the lookout. Thank you all for listening. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I had a thought. Are we going to be able to do a Planet of the Apes cast?
It's gonna be. I don't know.
No. Stay tuned, people. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. And until next time.